Yo, YouTube, it's your boy J Steph, man. Shout out. I want to first and foremost shout out to the Irish folk, bro. Shout out to the Irish people. Y'all make up a part of this community as well on this channel. Y'all know I be into the, I really love doing the documentaries for the most part on this channel, because that's where I make most of my bread from. But we are here, all right. The Westies, Ireland's most violent gang, all right, bro. Hold on, I'm gonna shout you out. He just commented this just now, so this is in real time. Shout out my man, Fran Callaghan. All right, shout out my man Fran Callaghan. I'm pretty sure he's from Irish. That's an Irish ass last name. All right. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tap them links down below. Hey man, we finna learn about the Westies, boy. It's about to get cracking. All right, we are in Dublin, Ireland again. It's cracking, boy. We here. Let's get it. Let's get it, man.
Blanchardstown in the late 1990s was far from just suburban tranquility. In the shadow of new shopping centres and housing estates, a group of young criminals began to make a name for themselves on the streets. They were dubbed the Westies by Irish media, named after their stronghold in West Dublin's Blanchardstown.
Hold on, I gotta get these names. All right, so we got Shane Coates, we got Steve. I feel like I heard of Shane Coates before. I heard that shit before. I feel like this Shane Coates motherfucker was in one of them other them joints with the Kenahans or the Hutch, whatever. He's involved somehow. We gonna find out. We got Stephen Sugg, we got Mark Glennon, and we got Bernard Sugg. All right, let's get it. I'm pretty sure that these are the four bosses.
As a ragtag crew of joyriders and petty thieves from areas like Corduff, Mulhudart, and Clonsilla would soon evolve into one of Dublin's most feared drug gangs.
Right.
By the end of the decade, the Westies had muscled their way to dominance over the local heroin trade, exploiting the boom times of the Celtic Tiger when cash and cocaine flowed freely. In these early days, the gang's core members were barely out of their teens. Childhood pals from the area, like Jason O'Connor and David Goulding, cut their teeth stealing cars and causing mayhem on estate roads. They and many others fell under the sway of Shane Coates and Stephen Sugg, the ambitious young men at the helm of the Westies. Coates, the elder statesman in his 20s, was tough and street-smart, while Stephen Sugg, backed up by his loyal younger brother Bernard, was equally ruthless. Together, Coates and Sugg offered the local petty criminals a chance to level up, join the Westies' enterprise and get rich off the drug boom, or stand in their way and suffer the consequences. It was an enticing offer in a place where some kids dropped out of school by age 11 and saw gangsters driving.
All right, dropping out at school at age 11 is crazy. That's crazy. That's way too fucking early to drop out of school. Granted, I dropped out of college, but that's college, nigga. I finished high school and all that shit. Them niggas ain't going to go to high school, middle school at that. What
flashy cars as role models. The rise to power was fast and ferocious. As Dublin's economy grew, so did the drug market. The Westies capitalized on exploding demand for heroin and the newfound popularity of cocaine among Ireland's affluent middle class. By the early 2000s, this crew was reportedly pulling in tens of thousands of euro a week, flooding West Dublin's streets with narcotics. With profits soaring, the gang expanded its activities, from armed robberies to extortion rackets, anything that could fill their pockets. But it wasn't just the money that made them infamous, it was the violence. The Westies earned a bloody reputation almost immediately for their willingness to do whatever it took to secure their turf. At the center of the Westies' story are a few key figures whose names became synonymous with terror in Dublin. Shane Coates, often regarded as the Westies' de facto leader, Coates was a Blanchardstown native in his late 20s who had risen through the ranks of local crime. Cold-headed and calculating, he acted as the gang's chief enforcer and shot caller. Gardaí sources say Coates ordered and in many cases personally carried out some of the most appalling acts of violence imaginable. He was the kind of gang boss who would shoot first and not bother asking questions later. Coates had a charismatically menacing presence. Even among hardened criminals, he was considered one of the most dangerous men on the streets. Stephen Dougie Sugg, co-leader of the Westies alongside Coates, Stephen Sugg was every bit as vicious. In his mid-20s, Sugg brought along his younger brother Bernard Verb Sugg as muscle. Bernard earned the nickname Verb for his motor mouth and swagger, but he was best known for his brutality. He served as an enforcer for the gang, essentially Coates and Stephen's right-hand thug. By all accounts, Bernard was a violent psychopath and a bully, the kind of heavy who thought nothing of pistol-whipping a rival or terrorizing a vulnerable drug user.
Damn.
Together, the Sugg brothers and Coates formed a triumvirate at the top of the Westies, forging a bond in blood and crime: Andrew and Mark Glennon. These two brothers were originally trusted lieutenants in the Westies ranks. Andrew Madser Glennon, around 30, and his older brother Mark, early 30s, provided extra muscle and helped run the day-to-day drug dealing on the estates. For several years, the Glennons were key enforcers who carried out orders and kept...
So, question for my Irish folk. So, with everybody selling drugs in Dublin, the Kinahans and the Hutch niggas were like the top niggas, right? So, with that being said, how the fuck is all these gangs able to operate? Or is just everybody on a mutual, playing field? You got your, whatchamacallit, you got your, your regular gangs and shit. Then you got your, the Kinahans and shit. Like, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? Because the Kinahans is running that shit, bro. You got to go through them, or you got to go through whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Flowing. However, their loyalty would not last forever. The Glennon brothers had ambitions of their own, and their split from the gang would later become a turning point in the Westies saga. Alan Fatpuss Bradley. Though not a member of the Westies' inner circle, Alan Bradley was a contemporary gangland figure whose name loomed large in West Dublin. Based out of nearby Finglas, Bradley led his own criminal outfit and was a major player in armed robberies and drug trafficking across the west and north of the city. Stocky and intimidating, hence the nickname Fat Puss, Alan Bradley moved in the same circles of violence and greed.
I don't like that name. Fat Puss? Hell no.
He and his brother Wayne controlled territory not far from the Westies' turf and were feared locally. As the Westies rose and fell, Bradley was one of those waiting in the wings, an opportunist ready to swoop in on any power vacuum. His path would cross indirectly with the Westies as the battle for Dublin's underworld intensified. These were the main characters in a gangland drama that would grip Dublin. Coates and the Suggs as the ruthless leaders, the Glennons as allies turned rivals, and predators like Fatpuss Bradley hovering at the edges. Each would play a role in the violent saga that unfolded in the early 2000s. For about 5 years, from the late 1990s...
I'm sorry, bro. Why do they call that nigga Fatpuss Bradley? What does that mean?
Into the early 2000s,
what does that even mean?
The Westies ruled West Dublin through fear. They didn't just sell heroin, they owned the trade, controlling most of the supply that poured into estates from Blanchardstown to Clonsea. They also dabbled in cocaine, capitalizing on the era's coke boom, and in classic gangster fashion, they shook down local businesses for protection money and knocked off cash-in-transit vans when the opportunities arose. What truly set the Westies apart was their extreme brutality. Even by gangland standards, this crew's methods were shocking. They enforced their rule with kidnappings, kneecappings, and savage beatings. Drug addicts who owed as little as $10 were not spared. The Westies would drag defaulters into back alleys or abandoned lots and dish out horrifying punishment beatings over pocket change. One report noted that for debts as low as €10, the gang would terrorize the area, dishing out punishment beatings to make an example.
Damn.
They seemed to revel in intimidation tactics. Kneecapping, shooting a victim through the knee to cripple them, was a favored warning shot. Slashing with blades was another. The gang had a reputation for slicing people up with carpet knives, leaving victims with permanent scars. In one particularly cruel incident, Westies thugs even assaulted a man in a wheelchair. To them, nothing was off limits if it maintained their iron grip on the territory.
Why the fuck are you doing shit to the wheelchair man?
Was practically the gang's calling card. Directed both at rival dealers and their own addicted customers, local residents lived in constant fear. The estates of Corduff and Mulhudart became the Westies' stomping grounds, and the gang acted like warlords. Witnesses to their crimes were terrified into silence. In fact, Gardaí later remarked that despite numerous operations against the Westies, no one has ever testified against the leaders. Such is the notoriety of the gang. Intimidation was working. People knew that crossing the Westies or speaking to police could mean a bullet or a beating. A Garda source at the time summed it up bleakly. There would be a fear of retaliation. People are terrified. Even other seasoned criminals were wary of the Westies. They were earning a reputation as Ireland's most feared young gang. Untouchable villains who thought nothing of executing an enemy in broad daylight. Inevitably, the Westies' violent rise put them on a collision course with other underworld figures. The drug trade is never peaceful. and soon the gang was embroiled in vicious feuds, some against outside rivals and others within their own ranks. By 2002-2003, two major conflicts were brewing that would seal the Westies' fate. The Westies' first big war ignited over a drug deal gone sour. They had once partnered with a gang from the south side of Dublin, often referred to as the Crumlin Gang, to share drug supply lines. But greed and mistrust corroded the alliance.
Like always,
in April 2003, a North Dublin drug dealer named Paul Ryan, who had connections to the Westies business, was found murdered execution-style in County Offaly. Gardaí suspected the Westies were behind Ryan's killing, possibly as a message to their wavering associates. This act poured gasoline on an already tense relationship with their Dublin rivals. Soon after, the Crumlin Gang, led by rival kingpins from South Inner City, struck back. They allegedly targeted the Westies' leadership in retaliation, sparking a tit-for-tat cycle of violence. By mid-2003, West Dublin was bracing for an all-out gang war between the Westies and a coalition of enemies from Clonsilla, Crumlin, and beyond. Armed detectives warned that any spark could set off an explosion of violence. If they are both back, they are preparing for revenge, one local source said of the Westies' bosses, noting that people are terrified of what might come next. At the same time, a betrayal was brewing inside the gang. The Glennon brothers, Andrew and Mark, had grown dissatisfied with their cut of the profits. They felt Coates and Sugg were keeping too large a slice of the pie. In 2003, the Glennons decided to break away from their mentors. Sensing opportunity, they secretly joined forces with a North Dublin crime outfit, an alliance that reportedly included a notorious drug trafficker named David Babyface Lindsay from Coolock. This defection split the Westies into factions. On one side, Coates and the Sugg brothers. On the other, the Glennons backed by new powerful friends. The bad blood was immediate and intense. What had been a single gang now became two rival gangs vying for control of West Dublin's drug turf. Late summer 2003 turned into open season, with the Westies' kingpins Coates and Stephen Sugg suddenly out of the country. More on that soon. The Glennon faction saw its chance to seize power. But first, they needed to eliminate the Westies' lieutenant still on the ground, Bernard Verb Surgy. Bernard was Stephen's younger brother and the acting boss in Blanchardstown, while Coates and Stephen hid abroad. The Glennons knew that as long as Verb was alive, he'd be a rallying point for Westies' loyalists, so they made a plan to take him out. On the night of August 18, 2003, Bernard Sugg was having a pint at the Brookwood Inn, a busy pub on Blackcourt Road in Corduff, a local haunt that doubled as the Westies' unofficial headquarters. Around 10:30 p.m, two masked gunmen barged through the door. They knew exactly who they were looking for and even knew where he liked to sit. The gang's crew had a regular table inside the entrance. As soon as Verb spotted the men with balaclavas and guns, he bolted for the exit. It was too late. In the panic, one attacker leveled a handgun and shot Bernard Sugg twice in the chest before he could escape. Patrons dove for cover, drinks went flying, and the pub erupted in screams. One innocent bystander caught a stray bullet in the foot amid the chaos. The gunmen showed no concern for human life as they pumped 6 shots into the crowded bar.
Damn!
Verb Sugg, age 20.
You ran in there, saw your eye, blicked him down, walked out, walked back in, opened the door, and blicked 6 more times? What the fuck? Leave them innocent people alone,
3
man.
Collapsed on the floor, mortally wounded. He was rushed to a hospital, but died within the hour. The hit on Sugg achieved its objective. The Glennon brothers had removed Coates and Sugg's last loyal lieutenant in Dublin. In the power vacuum that followed, the Glennon faction took control of the drug trade in West Dublin. As one account noted grimly, for a brief moment, Andrew and Mark Glennon reigned supreme over the very territories they once enforced for Coates. But their triumph would be short-lived. The underworld is fickle, and yesterday's allies can become tomorrow's executioners. By 2004, West Dublin's gangland was in turmoil. The original Westies leadership was in hiding abroad. Their protege-turned traitors, the Glennons, were now the top dogs at home, and the feud with the Southside gang was still smouldering in the background. Gun violence skyrocketed. Blanchardstown turned into a war zone of reprisals and hits. As one Irish reporter described at the time, Northwest Dublin's violent underbelly was threatening to erupt. Armed Garda units patrolled housing estates in anticipation of the next attack. Ordinary people hunkered down, praying not to get caught in the crossfire. Even as chaos reigned in Dublin, The original Westies bosses were plotting their comeback from afar. In mid-2003, Shane Coates and Stephen Sugg fled Ireland to escape intense Garda heat. The catalyst was a dramatic shootout with the Garda E that spring. In May 2003, Coates and some gang members were surprised by police while hiding out at a rural farmhouse in County Cavan, near the village of Virginia. The Westies had been using the isolated house as a stash pad for weapons.
Yeah, so they was out OT, and them feds found that shit, boy. Stop playing.
When officers arrived to investigate a tip about a burglary, Coates and his crew opened fire. A wild gun battle ensued in the quiet countryside. Coates was wounded in the exchange, but managed to slip away in the chaos.
Wow,
he knew the net was closing in. The Garda E were hot on his trail after that narrow escape. Rather than stick around for certain arrest or face retribution from the rival gangs in Dublin, Coates and Stephen Sugg decided to vanish. They first surfaced in Northern Ireland, then made their way to Spain by late 2003. For gangsters on the run, the sunny costas of Spain had become a popular refuge.
You heard about
Coates
that.
and Sugg set themselves up around Alicante on the Costa Blanca, a place where many Irish expats and fugitives mingled under the radar. With pockets full of cash, the Westies leaders started living the high life. One report claimed they even invested in local businesses, with one of them owning 2 pubs and a restaurant in the Alicante area. But they weren't simply retiring to sip sangria on the beach. Coates and Sugg were looking to continue their drug enterprise from abroad.
See, and that's that greed shit I be talking about, man. See, you just got away. You just had a blick out with the cops, man. You had a blick out with the cops. You was able to get you got shot. You was able to get away, right? Now you was able to get out the country and make it to Spain to the point where them niggas not even looking for you no more. Then you invested legitly into 2 businesses, 2 pubs. Bro, just chill out. Why do you have to make a return comeback? That's what I'm like, bro, just chill out. You don't need to keep going. You already old is enough. You probably past 40. What you need to keep running away for? Just chill your ass out in Spain.
Southern Spain offered new opportunities.
I don't get it, bro. I don't get the extra greed and wanting to come back and sell more drugs.
Through the Iberian Peninsula, and plenty of Irish and British gangs were active there. The Westies duo saw a chance to get in on the action, possibly to organise supply lines back to Ireland or to muscle in on the expat drug scene. However, entering an established foreign underworld was a dangerous game. Coates and Sugg brought their Dublin intimidation tactics to Spain, and that didn't sit well with the competition. They were essentially trespassers on someone else's turf. Spanish police later concluded that Coates and Sugg tried to muscle in on the local crime scene, using the same bully boy methods that had served them so well in West Dublin. The pair threw their weight around the Alicante underworld, attempting to take over drug operations run by other gangs. In doing so, they signed their own death warrants. In January 2004, just months after arriving in Spain, Shane Coates and Stephen Sugg vanished without a trace. Back in Dublin, underworld rumors swirled that the Westies bosses had been kidnapped or assassinated. Initially, even the Garda E weren't sure what to believe. Some speculated it was an elaborate hoax, that Coates and Sugg had faked their own abductions to lay low and take the heat off while plotting revenge on their enemies. One detective quipped darkly that this mysterious disappearance was the Spanish job, hinting it might be a con job rather than a real murder. Garda intelligence knew the Westies had plenty of enemies. Was it a rival Irish gang in Spain? The Russian mafia? Colombian cartels? At first, these were only whispers and unconfirmed reports. Months turned into years with no sign of Coates or Sugger. Their families reported them missing. Garda E quietly liaised with Europol and the Spanish Civil Guard to investigate, but there was no hard evidence of what happened. In Dublin, however, the underworld had a grim understanding. The Westies leaders had likely been betrayed and executed on Spanish soil.
Woo-wee, boy. I was about to say, if y'all can't find them niggas, boy, you already know. Bro, I'm telling you, we getting into this drug trade. Money's being made, a lot of money being made. You thinking that you can just walk up into people's operations and think that you could just take it over on some bully ball shit? Nigga, they gonna look at you crazy, boy. They gonna be like, hold on, who the fuck is this nigga right here? Who the fuck is this? You know what? Hey, get the guards. We about to take these niggas to the dock. Niggas got their throat slit, thrown in the fucking river, and never to be seen again, boy. I bet you that's what happened.
Until July 2006,
I bet you
that the truth was confirmed in the most macabre way. That summer, acting on a tip-off from an Irish informant, Spanish police unearthed a makeshift grave beneath a warehouse in the town of Catral, near Alicante. Inside a pit under 6 feet of concrete lay 2 skeletal bodies. DNA tests later confirmed what many suspected. They were the remains of Shane Coates, 31, and Stephen Sugg, 27. The Westies kingpins had been shot in the head at close range, their bodies dumped and covered over with cement. Spanish investigators described the scene. The men had been likely lured to that warehouse, overwhelmed by attackers, tied up, and summarily executed. A police spokesman in Alicante noted the brutality, saying the victims were each shot in the head and left in a shallow grave. Mostly bones by the time they were found. It was the ultimate betrayal. Coates and Sugg thought they were attending a friendly meeting, perhaps to broker a massive drug deal. In fact, a trap had been set. According to local reports, a rival Irish gang operating in Spain, allegedly one that had merged with former paramilitary members, arranged a phony drug transaction to lure the Westies in. The prize dangled in front of them was huge, a 200-kilogram cache of cannabis to be split or bought. Greed led Coates and Sugg right into the ambush.
I'm telling you, greed. When they left to go to Spain the first time, y'all niggas should have just chilled out, bro. Y'all got away from the cops like twice, 3 times even. Y'all made it to Spain. Y'all invested y'all drug money into real, legit money. Stay the fuck down and chill out. Why is that so hard for people to do, bro? I don't understand y'all niggas. I make $200 million off drugs. I'm moving. Y'all, if you want to stay in this, y'all go ahead. I'm cutting off all ties. I'm throwing all the ghost phones. I'm doing all that shit. None of that shit is hitting me. I'm skirting off, ducking off. I'm investing in some legit shit, and I'm chilling out for the rest of my life. Why do I need to then get back into the drug trade?
Once isolated in the warehouse, they were outnumbered and outgunned. The rival gang, likely Dublin criminals who had established themselves on the Costa Blanca, overpowered the Westies, tied them up, and shot them dead. Their bodies were unceremoniously dumped in a pre-dug pit and entombed in concrete under the warehouse floor. In Gangland fashion, the hitmen buried the evidence of the crime, literally building over it. Coates and Sugg disappeared off the face of the earth, leaving friends and foes alike to speculate for years. The discovery of their remains in 2006 made international headlines. Ireland's most wanted gang bosses had met a violent end abroad. Spanish and Irish authorities finally had closure on the case. The Westies leaders had been betrayed and executed by a rival Irish mob, likely as payback for their attempt to take over operations in Spain. As one Garda source put it, they won't find anything unless he is actually dead and his body is found. And now bodies had indeed been found.
Hey man, I ain't gonna lie. Look, this shit, if you learn anything from this story, okay, stop being greedy, bruh, all right? I'm not knocking niggas for being in the drug trade. Like I said, bruh, well, every time of these documentaries, they always start off, people grow up poor, people grow up in these hardships, and they looking to just make food for their family. They get too deep into the drugs because it's making so much money, and then they turn kingpin, right? Now you in a position where you a drug kingpin. Okay, boom, cool. You're selling all these drugs, you probably got to do what you got to do. You got to kill a couple folk, you know what I'm saying? That come with it. Got to kidnap niggas, got to make sure debts is being paid, right? You get to the point where you get away from the cops. Nigga, you ducked off in Spain, legitly putting your laundered drug money into legit businesses, turning it legit money. Chill. Sit your ass down, man. Sit your ass down. It's no point of getting greedy and wanting more. Because, like, bro, greed literally just got him killed. Both of them killed. You wanted to come into a different country where niggas already established their drug trade and shit like that, and you thinking that you just gonna come in here, they don't even know you. You think you just gonna come into their operation and take that shit over? Nigga, you're tripping, boy. And that's exactly what happened. Them boys said, yeah, all right, I don't even know who these niggas, we about to capture them. Let's just set up some drug deal. Fake it. We gonna whoop their ass, execute them off them, and then move on. That's what happened. It's a shame, but that's what happened, bro. Greed. Please stop being greedy, man. I'm telling y'all, it's going to be the death of you. I'm telling y'all some real shit. But be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to tap them links down below. Hey, until next time, We got more documentaries coming. Tap them links down below. I got gang war videos down there. Just like this video is going to be down there. All right. So tap that link down below. Follow me on IG everywhere that you need to be. It's your boy J Steph, man. Until next time.